We should be good, Lori.
You got like, it's like
All right.
work at my stuff.
It is 6:30 and I'll call the meeting to order. If everyone would rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tasia, would you do roll call, please?
Bruce Belargin.
Here.
Roxanne Kendall.
Here.
Marge Belil.
Here.
Cherie Lee.
Here.
Patty Jo Forsberg.
Here.
Katie Thermos.
Here.
Lori Belargin.
Here. Our district commission, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. The core values and protocol reminders are listed. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Katie? Is
I'll
there?
second.
Thank you, Marge. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to allow all those who wish to make a public comment and who have signed up the time to do so.
I second that.
Thank you, Cherie. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and then may we have a vote on approving the agenda with the amendment?
All in favor?
Okay.
Where's the amendment?
No,
No,
just that it's
no,
open.
it's
Open,
just
open
the,
the meeting.
like,
Perfect,
yeah,
yes.
for everyone to speak.
Yep.
Okay, motion carries. All right, number 2 then on the agenda is the open forum. So before we begin the public comment portion of the meeting, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of the Somerset School District staff and families who have made this year possible. Based on data collected through CSA 11, Somerset is the only school district in the Middle Border Conference and in St. Croix County that was able to stay completely open the entire school year. We did not have a hybrid schedule. We did not shut down between Thanksgiving and the New Year. We had no major outbreaks necessitating a school-wide closing. Somerset students and their families did not have a lost year. They had a hard-won year. And this is a celebration of what we were able to accomplish together by keeping our goals clearly in front of us. Keep teaching, keep learning, and keep each other safe. Opinions and ideas contributed by students, parents, staff, and other Somerset School District citizens are valuable to the board, which is why we include it on the agenda for every meeting. The board has set aside time for this purpose. Please remember that we are friends, neighbors, and at the very least, fellow community members. Please remember to be kind and polite. If a speaker begins invading the privacy of an individual or using vulgar language, the speaker will be stopped. If each individual takes his or her entire 3 minutes, the open forum will take over 45 minutes. So if your comment echoes a previous comment, you might consider simply stating your concurrence with the preceding statement. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Bruce Belargin, Vice President, will be timing, and he says that he will give you a 30-second warning at 2.5 minutes.
Great.
All right? Please
Pardon?
begin by
I don't
stating
believe the
your
live stream's
name,
working.
address, and your connection to the district.
Lori, do you want to just pause 1 second? Shannon's saying we're having trouble with the stream.
Oh, no.
Turn it back around.
Wait, it might be on now. I believe what you just said was not on.
And it was really good.
Well, I'm gonna say it again.
Can you
have
remember
to say
it?
it again. You have to
So,
say it.
before we begin the public comment portion of the meeting, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to all Somerset School District staff and families who made this year possible. Based on data collected through CSA 11, Somerset is the only school district in the Middle Border Conference and in St. Croix County that was able to stay completely open the entire school year. We did not have a hybrid schedule. We did not shut down between Thanksgiving and the New Year. We had no major outbreaks necessitating a school-wide closing. Somerset students and their families did not have a lost year. They had a hard-won year. This is a celebration of what we were able to accomplish together by keeping our goals clearly in front of us. Keep teaching, keep learning, and keep each other safe. Opinions and ideas contributed by students, parents, staff, and other Somerset School District citizens are valuable to the board, which is why we include it on the agenda for every meeting. The board has set aside time for this purpose. Please remember, we are friends, neighbors, or at the very least, fellow community members. Please remember to be kind and polite. If a speaker begins invading the privacy of an individual or using vulgar language, the speaker will be stopped. If each individual takes his or her entire 3 minutes, the open forum will take over 45 minutes. Therefore, if your comment echoes a previous comment, please consider simply stating concurrence with the preceding statement. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Our Vice President, Bruce Belargin, will be timing, and he will give you notice when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and begin by stating your name, address, and connection to the district.
Hello?
Hello, Samantha. You are in the board meeting to make your public comment if you're ready.
I am ready, thank you. I'm Samantha Coleman, and I live 467 Liberty Circle. I have 2 students that we homeschool. We just moved here in November, so hopefully we're planning on public school for next year. Okay, sorry, I wrote like a speech, so forgive me. So I'm speaking as a parent today, and I'm asking the school board to remove required masking in schools immediately and move to optional masking. My husband and I moved to Somerset in November and have a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl who we have been homeschooling. One of our biggest reasons for choosing to homeschool was the masking and infection protocol in the school. My son would very much like to attend public school with his new friends this summer and next fall, but my husband and I will not enroll him if he's required to mask. Masking is not fair to the children. It has psychological and physical side effects that we can't ignore. As an adult, it is difficult for me to wear a mask all day at work. I feel suffocated and panicky, short of breath at times, and overheated. My husband and I toured the school last week. What we saw on our tour was a lot of unmasked and incorrectly masked kids. I saw a whole gym class unmasked, huddled up, getting directions from a coach. I saw kids in the library huddled up with their masks below their chin. Our children are clearly sick of the mask. It's unfair to ask them to wear masks all day. My point being is that these children are not even properly masked, or they are unmasked altogether. It has been a whole school year, and if this is how the masks were being worn, then there was no point in wearing them at all. Children are least risk of severe COVID symptoms. Their symptoms are generally mild, and a COVID infection may go undetected. We cannot mask forever. We cannot teach our children to live in fear. Children are the lowest risk for this virus, but have suffered the most from restrictions put in place. I work in healthcare, and what I see is people getting COVID despite being vaccinated, despite wearing a mask consistently, and despite taking precautions. We are foolish to think that we can control this virus and how it operates. We need to be fair to our children and get them back to normalcy. I ask you to please change the masking requirements in school and let children and parents decide for themselves. We are each responsible for our own health. Just grown adults can spend hours unmasked in a bar or in close quarters, and you can walk into any store unmasked. These kids are hanging out with each other outside of school unmasked. At this point, there is absolutely no reason to keep these kids masked. My husband and I left
Samantha,
Minnesota
you have
because
30
we felt
seconds
the
left,
leaders-
just so you know.
Okay. My husband and I left Minnesota because we felt the leaders didn't listen to their constituents. Please listen to yours. Please hear us. We want our children unmasked. These children are more at risk from the safety measures put in place than at risk from the virus itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samantha.
You're welcome. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You are being live streamed.
Okay, hi, my name is Melanie Richards, and I am a...
Melanie,
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if you moved your phone away or something, but we cannot hear you very well now.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
No?
Can you hear me better now?
Try it again.
How about right now?
It's a little
Better.
better.
Okay, so how is it right now?
Good.
Okay, so my name is Melanie Richards, and my address is 2103 80th Street here in Somerset. I have 2 children in the school district. I'm reading a statement by my daughter. She's an 8th grader. She said, my experience with a teacher during COVID was that if some of my classmates and I didn't wear our mask correctly over our nose, it would be our fault if my teacher's grandma was to get sick or even die if she went to visit her. So we were put on a naughty list made up of 5 of us, and I was number 2. I was never close contact or sick with COVID this entire school year. Not once did this teacher call or email to tell me, the parent, that my child was on this list. I called into the school to discuss another topic, and at that time I was informed that Cece was on this list by the school counselor. I also received an email from Mr. Hutter regarding Cece throwing a wrapper on the bus that was initially thrown at her, only to be informed that if she doesn't pull up her mask on the bus, she will lose her riding privileges. The following week, that same bus driver who turned her in for her mask being below her nose stopped wearing her mask completely. Is Cece on the radar due to the naughty list? Obviously, somebody approved of this way of keeping track of these students, adults versus students. I think this is rather drastic given the fact that prior to COVID, there have never been any issues with my child. So now we have labeling of a student as being naughty kid, blacklisted because she just wanted to breathe through her nose, not filtered by a mask, which is an innate ability that we are born with. Again, never was she sent home for close contact or never being COVID positive. There have been no deaths from COVID in St. Croix County under the age of 50. Labeling students can influence their construction and development of students. I, as her parent, find this to be absolutely ridiculous, especially if the teacher was worried about grandma getting sick, then said teacher should A, teach virtually, B, not visit grandma, or C, find a new profession. Putting this burden on a student is awful. COVID has allowed people to push the phrase, I wear the mask to protect you, you wear the mask to protect me, when in fact we are
Melanie, you have
responsible
30
for our own
seconds
health,
left.
not anyone else's. There's no reason to continue wearing masks now that the mandate is lifted. Allow these kids to breathe. They have an immune system for a reason. You all stress the importance of mental health, but have allowed these students to be bullied by adults, stripped of their individuality, all because of a virus with a 99% recovery rate. Support medical freedom. Be there to educate. And it was sure nice seeing Patty's face at prom, unmasked, teachers and other students.
Oh, she hung up. Okay.
Timer.
Hello, Monet.
Hello, Monet, you are being live streamed.
I'm ready for Isabella or Monet?
Monet?
Okay, thank you for listening to the families and parents of Somerset School District. I wish we were face-to-face and were able to have this dialogue, facial expressions, and looking each other in the eye in a respectable manner and that gives value to community. Have you noticed other schools have given their public comment speakers that respect? They need a nice big space and give them a chance to speak in person. So students and teachers should be able to have their face seen and not covered by a mask that does not have scientific proof they work and no credibility to them stopping any viruses. What the mask does stop is smiles and full human face-to-face interaction, nonverbal communication, and connection. How about the hypocrisy that the mask has brought? The principals were asked 2 board meetings ago how they felt about students wearing masks as if they were teachers and felt safer. All 3 stated, oh yes, they felt safer. But at the same time, principal, teachers, and board members are out and about other places, gathering in large groups, socializing with no mask. So the question is, do they really feel safer in other places? And Lori Ballard and your husband was up at Hanks, mask-free, recording the Unmask Our Children meeting. And my question would be, why? Why don't you show up yourself and have conversations with your parents, your families that you represent? We just need to stop hiding behind computers, phones, and masks, and come together to listen to one another respectfully. Thank you to the board members that do email that, and that takes time to listen. I appreciate your efforts in building a solid community. Please vote today to make masks optional. Thank you.
Thank you, Monet.
Right,
Numbers
is
the
the
same.
same number?
Sorry.
We got it.
Hello, is this for Isabella?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Isabella is at the football game, so I'll be reading the letter that she wrote. She says, hi, everyone. My name is Isabella Scarika. I am 14. I'm a freshman. This year, the Somerset School District decided to force its students to wear masks over their mouth and nose. And because of this decision, my family and I thought that it would be in my best interest to take a step back and do online school. I go through an online schooling program called Edgenuity. I'm learning a lot and becoming more and more independent learner. I am missing out on having social interactions with my classmates and losing school relationships with my friends. Even though I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I had to roll in Ingenuity, I would love to go back to school next year without Somerset staff obsessing over this idea of masks. Not only are masks awful to wear throughout the day, but they are nearly unbearable to wear while playing sports. So parents and members of the board, please consider in better interest of your child. Acknowledge your child's freedoms are being ripped away from their hands by being forced to wear these face coverings over their mouth and nose and not having a voice to stand up for their beliefs. I appreciate all of you in hearing what I have to say, and I hope that these words will make a positive change within our school. Thank you.
Monet, hey Monet,
Yeah,
is Ryan next to you?
he is not. You'll have to give him a call.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
She's left her phone. She's probably something like shortstop or something. Took a game.
Hi, thank you very much for allowing me to speak and speak hopefully for the kids and our community and the teachers. Is it okay for me to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, most of you don't know me, but hello, my name is Melanie Scarika, and today I'm asking you that you please give our children and teachers back the freedoms they deserve, that we all had in years past. They need to be able to smile, talk, laugh, and interact without the impediment of a face diaper, and that's what it is. That has not been proven to work against viruses at any rate at 100% at all. These masks are dehumanizing. It is time for our children and teachers to go back to not living in fear the days prior of this pandemic. Isaiah 12:2. God has come to save me. I will trust in him and not be afraid. The Lord is my strength and song. He has given me victory. God will save us. Y'all don't need to try to play God and save us. It's time to lay down fear and please unmask our children. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
The next one is Will Shader, and I believe he's joining the meeting via Google Meet.
I don't see him waiting. You want to try to give him a call on his phone?
Sure.
Hello.
Hello, Will, you're in the school board meeting.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get my thing to work. I just moved into a different thing. Anyway, I apologize for that. But I will just, I'll keep it brief. I'd just like to express my support to the board, the school board, and also all the administrators and the teachers and everything, and staff member has done to keep the school open this year. You know, I'm an alumni, and I have a little sister still in school, and they were able to have a prom this year, and they were able to stay in person and get that experience. Because of the work that you did. So I really appreciate all of that, and that's pretty much it, so.
Okay, thank you, Will.
All right, thank you, have a good night.
You too, bye.
Ryan and St. Mary's goes back. Oh, they have different numbers listed. They might have had, probably had to fill that out.
Hello, it's Ryan.
Hello, Ryan, you are in the school board meeting.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I wanted to just, right off the bat, thank all of you. We're serving on the school board this last year. I do know that it has not been easy to try to lead through, what can be just a really polarizing year. I ask today that you do lighten that burden by making masks optional and just take that burden of making choices for our children's health and where it belongs, the parents and the children of the Somerset School District. I've spent the last 10 years of my life training and developing leaders in the health and human services field, serving the most vulnerable populations in our community. And during my training, the most important message that I share is that it's not our responsibility to tell people what they need to do. It's our responsibility to give people information and options and to give people the dignity to make their own choices. Over the last year, you've unfortunately been wrongfully burdened with that responsibility to tell parents and their children what they need to do for the health and safety of their family. I have to say, I get it. In the beginning, things were scary. They're unknown. Somebody had to make a decision, and you guys were in a tough spot to do so, but not anymore. Just over the last few weeks, just a few weeks ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics published their report, just stating that of the 500,000 COVID-19 related deaths from May of last year till May of now, of those 500,000, children only represented 308. 73 million children in our world, or in the U.S., 20% of our population, but they only made up 0.05% of the deaths in the United States. Yeah, the truth is that our children are 6 times more likely to die by homicide than to die by COVID-19. This last weekend, I was reading an article on NPR that's always supported wearing masks and all that sort of thing, and these doctors are saying now, quote, in kids, the risk of COVID-19 and the flu are similar, that the risk perceptions is not, end quote. And the point with that is that we just really need to pivot and start perceiving the reality of the risks at this point. And they are just that of the flu. What about staff? What about grandparents? Vaccines are now widely available, and those that want them have gotten them, and people have their choices now that our students and parents make theirs. I ask that, if following the science is what led to mandatory mask requirements where they are, then allow the science to lead to the ending of it.
But Ryan, you have 30 seconds left
there. And make masks optional. I'm not saying that children can't wear masks. Parents want their kids' faces covered for 8 hours a day with a moist, dirty, bacteria-infested mask. Allow them to make that choice. I was appalled yesterday when I was on the CDC website and saw guidance for people who have pets that said, do not put a mask on pets. Masks could harm your pets. That's what the CDC says, but we're going to put them on our kids. I know I speak for hundreds of parents, grandparents, staff members when I say enough is enough. Let our kids be kids and our parents be parents.
Hey, Ryan.
Allow masks to be optional.
Ryan, is Morgan near you?
She is. She's right here, yeah.
You want to hand the phone off and we'll just run right to hers?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello? Hello, Morgan. You're in the school board meeting.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
I just want to say good evening, board members. I wanted to start by thanking you all for the opportunity for me to speak tonight. My name is Morgan, and I'm the mother of 3 kids here in the Somerset School District. I'm not here tonight to persuade you, the board members, to do anything. Frankly, I think you've all been put in a very unfortunate and unfair situation. I think hindsight being what it is, you as well as members of the community can agree that this was far more than you ever signed up for or were ever capable of managing. So I'm here tonight to do the board a favor and hopefully take this heavy burden off your shoulders and place it where it belongs, on us, the parents of the school district. Parents, I am here tonight to try and persuade you to do something, because let's be honest, it's been a year, and the only thing this board has demonstrated it is reliably capable of doing is outsourcing every decision they make to unelected bureaucrats at the county, state, and federal levels. They have proven unwilling or unable to participate in the exercise of critical or independent thinking or to demonstrate any level of intellectual integrity, curiosity, or consistency whatsoever. Or God forbid, to even entertain the idea of maybe allowing us, the parents of this community, the ones who elected them to their positions in the first place, and to whom they each took an oath to represent, the dignity to make our own informed decisions about what we believe is best for the immediate and long-term mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health of our children. So the time is now for we, the parents, to take back the authority that is rightfully ours. You do not need to ask for permission or be a doctor or an epidemiologist or public health specialist. You do not need to have an official title or credentials behind your name, because when it comes to your child, the only 3 letters that matter are MOM and DAD. Those titles make you the subject matter expert and the only person qualified to decide what is best for your child. If you as a parent think the best thing for your child is to have their mouth and nose obstructed with a bacteria-infested rag for 8 hours a day, then you should continue sending your child to school with a mask on. If you as a parent think the best thing is to not have their mouth and nose obstructed with a bacteria-infested rag for 8 hours a day, then you should stop sending your child to school with a mask on now. My daughters were going into 8th grade, 6th grade, and kindergarten at the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year, and after the board dragged their feet all summer last year, my husband and I made a decision with our 3 daughters to homeschool. We've been in person with co-ops, homeschool groups, field trips, sleepovers, parties, friends and family, mask-free all year. School and life for us has been normal, and it's been a really big blessing. It breaks my heart to see parent drop-offs, pick-up, and buses with all the students and staff masked up. I wonder every
Morgan, you have 30 seconds.
kids will be wearing masks if their parents were given the option. For all the parents out there that feel the way I do, know that you are not alone. You aren't crazy, you're not heartless or careless. You are a parent and you deserve to do what you feel is best for your children. All of us do. So let's take back our parental right to medical freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan.
Hello, this is Jackie.
Hello, Jackie. You are in the school board meeting.
Hi. So my comment is, before the school year ends, I think the public needs to know what the Somerset School District intends to do regarding masks next year, so families can make other accommodations throughout the summer to prepare for applications to other schools, and so staff has ample time to make decisions to get vaccinated if they feel necessary before next school year starts. When the pandemic began, the lack of knowledge about COVID-19 justified the masks and social distancing. That excuse has vanished. It became clear long ago the virus is less dangerous to children than the flu, and that keeping schools open poses minimal risk of spreading infections. If you look at the Wisconsin DHS as of 5/3/21, there were 599,576 cases, and only 1% in the age group of 0 to 19 were hospitalized. Does the number need to be 0 before we can move on? Did you know that according to the CDC, suicide is the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 24, not COVID? It doesn't even come close. According to the DHS, as of 5/5/21, there have been 0 deaths from COVID-19, ages 0 to 19. We have suicide as the second leading cause of death of our youth, and that hasn't even been part of the conversation when it comes to our youth and return to school under these conditions. If you don't remove this mask mandate for next year, those struggling with mental health will be even worse. What we're forgetting here is that we were continually reminded at the beginning of this that it is fluid and changing all the time, which is true. We're now at a place where vaccines have been offered to all staff, and the numbers in our district, students and staff, is drastically down since January and has stayed that way. These are all blessings and good things, yet we aren't even having discussions of where we go from here. The public wants to know, and I know I don't stand alone on this topic. We want and have every right to know what next year looks like for our children. We have so much more knowledge today than we did a year ago, and new decisions need to be made, and we need to turn to the next chapter. We cannot wait for a decision to be made until August, leaving families and staff scrambling on what to do. As we all know, germs are nothing new in school. Teachers knew this when they took this profession. Kids and parents knew this when they put their kids in school. When you're in public, germs are always going to be a risk. Sickness is always going to be a part of life. We're here to say, make masks optional. If someone feels more comfortable wearing a mask, let them wear it. If they don't, it should not be forced. In Wisconsin, we have 3 exemptions for vaccines because we respect people's bodies and their freedom to control their own health. The same exemptions should be for masks. People should not be forced to do anything.
Jacqueline, 30 seconds left.
Over 50 schools in the state of Wisconsin have made masks optional over the last few weeks. When it comes to healthcare, why is it in one size fits all? I want to stay in my child's health. Body autonomy is all right. Informed consent is all right. Public education is all right. I ask you, please make masks optional. Put the power back in the hands of parents, which is where it belongs, not in the hands of this panel of experts that were hand-selected by certain people on this board. Thank you for your time.
Jackie, is Brooke there with you? It's the same number, too.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello, is Brooke available?
She is available. Just one moment. Okay, here she is.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, Brooke, you're in the board meeting.
All right.
Hello, I am Brooke Olson. I go to Samantha High School, and I thank you for serving on the school board to help make important decisions and to listen to students like me. As much as I'm thankful I was able to go to school every day to play sports and see my friends, this year has been very difficult. I feel like that has been a rough go for many people, including myself. I can't see people's smiles and cannot read their expressions. How am I supposed to know how they are feeling? When my friends are sad, I can't give them hugs and tell them it's going to be all right, because there's a barrier between us. Now people are guarded and want to hold their emotions in. I know from personal experience that mass and COVID have taken a toll on teens' mental health. I checked, and did you know there has been a 46% increase in depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues? You can't keep ignoring that wearing masks, social distancing, and quarantine are doing us, and for no reason at all. Our age group isn't the high-risk group for COVID, yet we are given no choice, and our parents are given no choice to how we are going to handle the risk versus being able to live normal life, socialize with our friends, and live life to the fullest. Wearing masks on a physical level has also been hard. I have physically had a hard time focusing during school, and just breathing is hard when you wear it literally all day. Many days I would be required to wear a mask early in the morning for weight training, all day at school, at sports practice, or games through the evenings. So basically some days it was 14 hours straight of wearing a mask. Let me just say, it was not easy, and I'm praying that we will never have to go through anything like that again. I'm asking that you make a decision today to make masks optional for next year so that we can reconnect with each other. Help those struggling with depression, anxiety, and just to be free again. We need to know what next fall looks like for us. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Aunt Lori, do 690.
960.
690.
No. No, she said to change it up.
Yeah.
4690 instead of 4069.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
On her phone number?
Yeah,
I'm coming over.
it's supposed to be 690 instead of 960?
Yes.
690, got it.
What? I didn't do what I said to talk about. What did my kid do now?
Hello, this is Nancy.
Hello, Nancy, you're in the school board meeting.
Hi, I just wanted to take a quick minute to read a couple letters that were written from my kids. So the first one says, Dear School Board, my name is Riley. I'm a sixth grader at Somerset Middle School. Due to the mask, I have been required to wear this shirt at school. I have had more headaches and anxiety. I have also been way more tired, and I would appreciate you allowing us to move freely again. I see teachers with their masks off talking a lot. Why don't we have the same rights? Is it because we are kids? So that's the letter my sixth grader wanted read. Excuse me for you guys on the school board meeting. My eighth grader also has written a little piece here. It says, hi, my name is Avery. I'm a middle school student, and I'm fully aware of the fact that there is no mask mandate anymore. Some reasons and why we shouldn't have to have these masks anymore is for many students have trouble breathing in the mask. And as a result, for me, I have had more panic attacks and anxiety. So those are my two kids. But I also wanted to speak because I am a healthcare professional, and I have been for 16 years of the past 11. I have had leadership roles. I currently am a director of nursing overseeing congregate buildings. And the whole push for masks were to try to keep our elders safe, and that's kind of been the push from all angles. However, even in my building, I work in Minnesota, which even has stricter guidelines than Springfield, Wisconsin. the elders in the buildings do not have to wear masks when they get together. They don't have to wear masks for activities. They don't have to wear masks when they have visitors. Yet somehow we're still requiring our children who are completely safe from this virus to have to put masks on. So we wanted the opportunity to at least be heard, if nothing else. I don't want to ask for my kids either. They're my kids, it's my choice. Their health is my choice. But also just to be a role model, to teach them that you stand up when, you know, for people who don't have the ability to talk. And you stand up and let people know when things are wrong. And continuing to have masks on our children when there is no mask mandate in place. And all the schools around us don't even have mask mandates. Absolutely, to the children, looks like a huge power push from the school board. And they've asked me to move schools. I mean, it's insane, to be honest. So, I mean, I appreciate you. I know I'm limited to 3 minutes. I appreciate you taking the time, you know, to hear their letters, but mine as well. So from a medical standpoint, being in the medical field for, like I said, 16 years now, there's no need to continue to have masks on our kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Hello?
Hello, Alicia. You're in the school board meeting.
Hi, yep, my name's Alicia Waldbeck. I live in Somerset, and I am a parent of a Somerset elementary student. I appreciate the time to speak tonight. I have concerns regarding the current and future mask policy in the district. We know the mask mandate in the state of Wisconsin ended March 31st as the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled the mandate as unlawful. Each one of you took an oath when you were sworn in as school board members. The oath specifically states that you will support and uphold the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin. That said, requiring students and staff to continue to wear masks is not only a violation of their rights, but a violation of the oath that you have all sworn on. The current mask advisory recommended by the St. Croix County Public Health Department is just that, a recommendation. It is stated directly on their website. This advisory is not enforceable by law enforcement or anyone else. It is in the best interest of everyone living or physically present in St. Croix County to follow the recommendations of this advisory. Recommendations are great. It's recommended to eat healthy, exercise daily, or wear a helmet while biking. Many things are recommended in our life, but it is up to the parents or individual person to choose what to do. Before COVID-19, who did you see wearing a mask? It was medical professionals or someone who was sick. Masks are designed for medical purposes and are considered a medical device. As members serving on this board, it is not your obligation to make any kind of medical recommendations for the students and staff. Wearing a mask needs to be optional and a decision that is up to each individual family or person based on their needs. To date, there are 0 COVID-19 deaths for the age of 0 to 19 in the state of Wisconsin and 0 COVID-19 deaths for the age 49 and younger in St. Croix County. We are all thankful that this virus does not have a negative effect on our children. By now, the staff members have all had the opportunity to get the vaccination if they have chosen to do so. Do we know what the long-term health concerns are with wearing a mask all day? What are these masks doing to our children's mental health? And where are these studies showing the effectiveness of these masks? You have to admit that things don't add up when any type of mask is acceptable. It's like saying a football player can wear any type of helmet to protect them from a head injury. Would a bike helmet be acceptable to wear during a football game? If we are actually wearing a mask to stop the transmission of this virus, we would all need to be wearing a specific type of mask that is professionally fitted for each individual. No one is saying that someone cannot or should not wear a mask. If a family or person feels it is necessary to wear a mask, then that is their choice.
30 seconds, Alicia.
Okay. Making someone wear a mask because another person feels uncomfortable is not a choice for any of you to make. Please, let these kids see each other smile again. Make masks optional immediately and ask yourself, if not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thanks, Alicia.
Bye.
Also, Brandon, could you give us your address, please? You did not get back to Tasia with it.
Oh, yeah, it's 308 Harriman Street.
Thank you. You're at the school board meeting. Would you like to make your statement?
I would love to.
Thank you.
Are you ready for me?
We sure are.
All right, I'd like to start by saying you all look happy to be there, but I can't see any emotion with all of you wearing masks. So instead, thank you for being there as public servants to our community. Many have and will be sharing plenty of facts and data tonight. I'll keep this short to allow time for others, but ask that you still take this very seriously and not as a joke. A joke, like the fact we are even here discussing these damn masks in the first place. Yes, it's a joke. Time to move on unmasked. If some parent wishes to make their child wear a mask, so be it. Those very same parents will likely have their children in masks for the next 10 years, either way, based on the fact they followed the fear. Not the facts, as you'll hear from others mentioned tonight. For over a year, not one child has died of COVID in St. Croix County. Not one. Precautions, maybe. BS, most likely. Get on, move on, and let these kids breathe, see a smile, give a smile, and see what human emotion looks like again, before they forget anymore. As is, these kids will never live normal again because of this. Many physically, many more mentally. Wake up. Stop this nonsense tonight. My 4-month-old baby will never attend school where the board doesn't uphold the oath they took to serve the community and follow the Constitution, nor will I support any such school. I'd like to also note that we, the people, are keeping scorecards of every government servant in St. Croix County. And rest assured, we will not forget which way you vote tonight. When we rally together next election, throw every single servant out of office who violates their oath and trespasses on the rights of the people. Unmask the children. Thanks.
Thank you, Brandon. Let's see.
Hi, this is Jamie.
Hello, Jamie. Did you want to make a public comment at the board meeting?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, first, my name is Jamie, and I have 2 students, one in elementary school, one in middle school. I want to thank you board members for taking the time to hear our comments. I know this is not an easy conversation to have, and we really do appreciate you guys listening to our thoughts on this. You know, and I honestly have to start by saying and sharing that I really struggled with this decision to make a public comment. And the struggle wasn't about me, but more about the backlash that it could bring to my kids. I feel like whenever the topic of making math optional comes up, it's always stated, well, you're just not appreciating the teaching staff, and you think they should be doing a better job. And that is so far from the truth. Wanting math to be optional has absolutely nothing to do with my satisfaction as a job our teachers, staff, and students have done this year. But because it always comes back to that, I was really hesitant to share my thoughts. And I've spoken to a lot of parents who feel the same way. We don't want our kids to have to take on the burden of other people's reactions based on our opinion, so we stay quiet. But then I thought of all the times my son had to use his inhaler this year versus the previous year, and I thought of all the asthma attacks he's had this year versus the previous year. I thought of all the days he came home from school this year with a headache, he didn't feel well, and all the times my youngest opted out of playing sports that he loved because he didn't feel like he could breathe in his mask. And that's when I knew I had to use my voice for them. And look, I understand not every child has been negatively affected this way, and I'm happy for those kiddos. And I'm happy for those parents who can say, well, the mask doesn't seem to bother my child. They're doing just fine with it. Well, but you know what? It bothers my child. So as his mother, I'm asking you, where is his voice in this? Why are his best interests being pushed to the side? Honestly, why does it feel like you're saying it's okay? It's really not that big of a deal that you've had to use your inhaler more times this year than you've ever had in your life. There are many schools in Wisconsin that have chosen to go optional math over the last few weeks. Schools that are much larger than ours, and their numbers are fine. There's been no outbreaks,
no increases in their case numbers. The data and the information is all there. All you have to do is look for it. And I know right now there are some people listening who are thinking, we only have 2 weeks left, and they wish we just stay quiet and let this go, just keep the mask on and just ride it out for the rest of the school year. But I just look at it differently. Sure, when it's 30 below outside, we put on our coats to protect us and keep us safe. But when the weather starts to warm up, we take those coats off. We don't continue to wear them just because that's what we've done the last 5 months.
30 seconds, Jamie.
I'm asking you to please look at our kiddos' faces and listen to them. When I asked my third grader if there was anything I could say to the board, he said, yes. Tell them I would really like to see my teachers smile, and my friends smile. Most importantly, we need to let them see that we've all come together in this extremely hard time in this world, and we came out successful. Let's let them celebrate this. Let's let them celebrate all the hard work together with their classmates and their teachers. So I'm asking you to vote yes to make math optional. Let's end the year with smiles and victories.
Thank you. The next one is Patty, and she's going to do a Google Meet. Hi, Patty.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. Are you
Good.
ready to make your
Okay.
statement?
Pardon me?
You're ready to make your statement?
Yes. My name is Patty Schockner. I live at 1064 210th Avenue. I just have, my husband and I are both graduates. All our kids are graduates from Somerset. We have grandchildren that are at school right now. We have nieces and nephews and friends and neighbors. And I just want you to know that I support everything that the school board is doing. I support wearing masks through the end of the year. But I think as a school board, you have bigger things to think about, and that is the reality of what's going on in St. Croix County. When it comes to mental health, we heard a lot about suicide. Here in St. Croix County, we have not had a teenage suicide through the whole pandemic. We usually have 4 to 5 suicides a year of teenagers in school and children in school. We have not seen those ramifications. So as we move forward, and I've been talking to a lot of folks, not only you as a school board, but also folks in different school districts, and what's going on is kids right now are talking about the massive bullying that's going on. And I think as school board members, you need to be prepared. As we move forward and the schools open up, if suicide comes back to our kids, those conversations are going to be coming to the school boards and to the administrators. These are the facts. We know that the suicide rate of children in St. Croix County from January of 2020 to now, to this date, there has been 1 in almost 2 years. So I beg you to put that on your radar as you plan for the schools to open next year. Stay safe, and I thank you for everything that you do for us in our community.
Thank you, Patty. The rest of the people who contributed a public statement, provided them in writing. You received many of them ahead of time. The ones that came in today will be attached to, they all will be attached to the agenda. So the next item on the agenda then is our board, our COVID-19 protocols, number 3. And I believe Tasia is connecting us.
Can I make a motion that the people that are talking about our protocols are also limited to the 3 minutes that we gave everybody else to speak?
They're on the agenda. There is no time limit for people who are on the agenda. Kelly, are you?
I guess I just maybe want to say the same, that just if we ask questions, maybe that's something, I want to hear them speak, but I want to make sure that we're not listening for a drawn-out length of time. So I guess the people listening is, present your facts to us, and that's, if the board has questions, I think we ask, but I'd like to keep it all short and to the point, I guess. Okay?
Kelly, I believe that Ellie was going to present first, is that correct?
Well, we usually do our ooh, this is very bad audio. Okay, we usually do our presentations together. She presents data. Is there an option to do that or not? Because that is how we logistically have set it up for tonight's. She will show the data and I will just reinforce the recommendations that have been given us by DHS and CDC.
Tasia, can you have both of them on at the same time?
Yep. So she should be getting an invitation in her email.
She also mentioned that she didn't think she had a mic. So I hope the invitation is, I didn't have a problem. I signed on it.
Kelly, if you have our school board meeting up, the audio of it, you'll want to mute that where it's coming through.
I do not have
Okay.
it up. I
Okay.
think Ellie did.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay, so Ellie did say, I'm asking to join.
Okay.
She's going to join her meeting or this one? You had her separately.
Is she in the link? Can you find out if she's in the link that I just emailed and not, because I had her on a separate calendar invite. So she'll want to go on the one that I just emailed to her.
I will find out. Okay, I think she's got it.
Okay, here we go.
She'll have to present her screen. I'll just wait for that.
Hi there, thank you for having me. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Let me bring up the presentation and get right started.
So many different platforms. There we go, Ellie. Great. Okay, so I am Kelly Ng and I am the health officer here for St. Croix County. My background, I am an RN. I have a master's in public health from the University of Minnesota with an emphasis in public health policy and administration. Been asked, Ellie, can you mute? Sorry. We are fortunate. Weird. We are fortunate to have Ellie Clausen, who is an epidemiologist, who has really been able to look at data through this response. So she's going to share some data with you tonight. And as I stated earlier, I'm just going to share the recommendations that we are being told by state and as well as the CDC. So just quickly, Ellie, you can go to the next slide. So quickly, local health departments, not a lot of people, I believe, didn't really realize all the different things a local health department could do. Unfortunately, this pandemic has really brought light to what your local health department does, specifically to communicable disease control. We in the state of Wisconsin, as a health department, have different state statutes, and in this slide I've highlighted what requirements are needed to meet certain level of health department designation. So if you're interested in that, those are all in those slides 250 and 251. And then I also look at chapter 252, which relates specifically to communicable disease. There's also administrative rules that pertain to, that are brought down by the state in which we carry out locally, and those are the control, the ones I highlighted specific to this topic are control of communicable diseases as well as vaccine preventable diseases. All right, Ellie.
Thank you. And again, as Kelly said, my name is Ellie Clausen. I'm an epidemiologist. I have a master's of science in public health, and I have been working in epidemiology for about 10 years. What we're seeing in St. Croix County right now in terms of COVID cases, we have seen a drop in COVID cases. We were unfortunately on a rise in April, and we have since slowly been declining, which is great to see. So we are seeing about, on average, it's a 7-day average, we're seeing 7 new cases a day. And so these are not individuals who tested positive 90 days ago and have tested positive again. We don't count those. So, you know, if you do test positive, you're given 90 days of protection. And then we have had multiple people test positive again. Those people are not in this count. These are absolutely new diagnoses of COVID-19. What does that mean in terms of risk level? This is really how we determine how bad is the disease, how much transmission is going on in our community. In April, as I said, we did have a spike, a rise in cases, and so we were one of the only counties, you can see there on the left, indicated at a very high level of case activity, which means there was, of all the levels within the entire state, we were the highest. We have slowly graduated. Now we're at a high case activity. There is still medium and low, so there is still work to be done. We are still considered high case activity, a high risk level here in St. Croix County currently. Where are these cases of COVID-19? Well, if we look, what this graph describes for you is the blue bars, you see those first bars, that's January. We had high case numbers in January. February, our case numbers dropped in the pink, and then March, they started to rise just a bit. April is that yellow, you can see those high bars. But now what we've seen as we're into May, we were into April, you've seen the case numbers in our older population, those populations that open to vaccination, and as more adults continually are being vaccinated, we're seeing the shift of disease down to our younger age groups. So if you especially look in that 14 to 18-year-old age group, this month they have 56 cases. That's more than any other age group of all the residents across all of our age brackets here presented. So, and as well in our 9 to 13s, we're seeing 29. That is second highest, matches to our 49 to 53 age group. But what that really shows is that when there isn't the availability for a vaccination to protect these individuals at the younger age, we're seeing more disease. And as we may or may not know, the B117, the variant, which is more infectious, consists for about 60 to 70% of the cases of COVID we have here in Wisconsin. And so what that means is that that virus is going to find those who are susceptible, and the unvaccinated, as we can see, are susceptible and therefore experiencing higher numbers of disease. So just some things about the pediatric transmission of SARS. So we have seen the same, studies have shown that adults and children transmit the disease. Infection rates are the same. Some studies have found lower infection rates in children compared to adults. We see adolescents are more likely to be infected than younger children, and that secondary transmission occurs. We do have as well studies that have demonstrated children and adolescents, the transmission among them, and then their transmission into their household. One big point here is we did see, there has been little data on unmasking transmission. Because of all the schools have been masked, there isn't good data on transmission in an unmasked setting. Here's one example. It was a Georgia YMCA camp. They were there for only 3 days before someone positive and came up positive. Campers were about 12, with staff of around 17 years old. They had 76% of the people they tested were positive, 260 individuals. They did have people in cabins, they didn't use the ventilation, and they didn't use masks. So what we're seeing is we saw lots of asymptomatic infection. Obviously those kids came in, they were asymptomatic. And we had high attack rates, which means these kids were being infected by children of all ages. And so then obviously the measures that the camp adopted were just not sufficient to prevent such a great transmission. I'm going to pass it off to Kelly.
So last week, the CDC came out and said we are going to make different recommendations related to people that have been vaccinated, and that includes resuming normal activities after you are fully vaccinated. So please remember that being fully vaccinated, depending on what type of vaccine you're getting, whether it's a 1-dose series or a 2-dose, you are not considered fully immunized till 14 days after that either first or second dose, again, depending on what brand of vaccine that you get. So with the CDC's new recommendations, we did update our health advisory at St. Croix County. There are exceptions though, and some of the exceptions, the exceptions are listed here on this slide, but K through 12 schools are one of the exceptions. Masking is still recommended in the K through 12 schools. I realize this has been, I just want to take a minute and say this has been probably the longest 14 months of my life. I know maybe some of yours as well. I do want to let everybody who is listening, watching, and the board know that our St. Croix County schools have done an amazing job actually going back to even last school year with the closing of schools. Very quickly, it came fast and they had to adjust and make quick moves to make sure that children's learning wasn't impacted. We know it was impacted, but they did a really good job, and I just want to commend Superintendent Bezik's efforts, as well as all of the other St. Croix County schools that have really had to adjust to ever-changing recommendations that have been happening for the past 14 months.
Hey, Kelly.
So that does definitely need to be said.
Kelly.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So with that last slide, you bring up the K-12 schools as one of the exceptions. Do you know when, or is it you who makes this public health advisory update for St. Croix County?
It's myself and a team. Ellie's a part of the team, our medical advisor, as well as people in our communications office.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then maybe just from your perspective on the team, when or how does K-12 become removed from that list? I guess what would need to happen before you would feel comfortable, I guess, removing K-12 from that list?
Well, and this is what's really complicated, so I appreciate the question. This is what's complicated about this issue because although these are recommendations that the CDC puts down, or puts forth, and then DHS at the state level also usually endorses the CDC guidance. and really at the local level, then it is our duty and responsibility to really look at our communities, and I say communities because we have many, as a whole. We need to look at it holistically, like how much disease activity really is going on in our community. And as you saw, we are coming down, which is great. That's awesome. The other big thing to answer your question, vaccinations, like this fully vaccinated people can go back to some sort of normalcy, right? And we just started a week ago, the vaccine became eligible for the 12, to 16. Prior to that, we did have 16-year-olds eligible for one type of the vaccine. So I think as we start getting more people vaccinated, as well as watching that community transmission keep going down, we would be in a better place to say, let's try maybe scaling back on some of these, what we call non-pharmaceutical interventions. So masking is a non-pharmaceutical intervention. It's not a medication. It's something we can do without it being a medication. Social distancing is another one. I think layering, all the guidance you see says really to keep transmission down, layering these strategies together is the best way to stop the spread of COVID. Sorry, I'm long-winded. I'll did that answer your question?
Well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, is this you? No, this is me too. So as we were talking about the different strategies, we refer to them in public health as N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, I, NPI, so those are those non-pharmaceutical interventions. This is a slide that really talks about layering those interventions to reduce transmission. A study came out, I believe it was last week, in the MMWR, which is a publication by CDC, and it looked at schools with requirements to wear masks, and transmission was, 37% lower with the requirement of using masks, 39% lower with layered with using ventilation systems too. So, and then the CDC, there's the non-pharmaceutical interventions as well as CDC's guidance for K-12 schools.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
And I'm not sure if it would be you, Kelly, or Ellie, but I'm wondering, with most of the other school districts in St. Croix having gone mask-free and having, or mask optional, and heading into summer school, are you going to look for indicators on how that affects our transmission rate and what your recommendation, so if it doesn't affect our transmission rates, would you then potentially make a recommendation that it's safe for, kids?
You mean to stay mask optional?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a great question. I'll give my quick little snippets about it, and then Ellie can add hers. So Ellie and I just had this conversation today. I think because where we are with case activity level in St. Croix County and that immunization levels of, just opening up now to this younger population, and our vaccine rates are not great in the county. But we're doing good. We're moving along. There's definitely places to get vaccinated. So back to the question related to, are we going to definitely look at transmission? So Ellie and I spent about 20 minutes today really talking about how do we make sure now with other St. Croix County schools, as you mentioned, going mask optional this summer, really looking at that transmission data and capturing it as best we can. I will say that, and I'm not naive, people are over COVID. People are done with COVID. They want to be done, they want normalcy. And when we do case investigation, our staff has shared, nobody wants to talk to us anymore. We didn't have a lot of that problem right away when the pandemic was started, but we've seen that increase over time. So to get good data, we really need to be able to talk to cases. Long answer to your question, if we can gather good data that we're confident in, that looks at those diseases that may pop up with mask optional over the course of the summer, and we don't see a lot of transmission within the school setting, absolutely we are going to take that into consideration and say, well, maybe masks don't do what we thought they did. There's a lot of studies to say that masks do prevent transmission. So I would want to say, we're reasonable people. I think we're reasonable people. We don't, as I said, people are over this, and we need to find common ground in a new normal, or a normal, back to some kind of normalcy. Ellie, do you have anything?
Yes, Mark.
Kelly, this is Mark. Say, has St. Croix County Health ever gone against DHS or CDC recommendations?
Not that I'm aware of. We wouldn't knowingly do that. No, not that I'm aware of, Mark.
Okay.
Ellie, did you have anything to add?
Oh, I just heard it. Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, yes, it is of, I believe, epidemiological importance to look at what masking does to our community, and how it not only has an effect within the schools, but the ripple effect into the households, into the community as a whole. And like Kelly said, I think it's going to be a very important part of that process to be able to do the actual investigations, but that also people are getting tested. I know there is now the being sick of isolation or being labeled as quarantined. So we do, all of those pieces are dependent on all those, our outcome is dependent on all of those pieces. So we're taking that all into consideration.
There are a number of private schools, and I know Elk Mound just 2 weeks ago took away their mask mandate. Have you guys been monitoring those numbers? Because from what I understand, they're at 0.
So we don't have access to other district data outside our county. Elk Mound is not in our county. Is Elk Mound in Dunn, I believe?
Yeah.
Dunn or Claire?
Done.
Dunn. Yeah, and I have not spoke specifically with the health officer in Dunn County to see that. And 2 weeks really isn't a ton of time to look, to evaluate whether an intervention or taking away an intervention. I don't believe 2 weeks, Ellie's the expert in epidemiology, but I don't believe 2 weeks is enough time to really say whether or not they saw in, what they concluded, I guess.
So one last question I'd like both of you guys to answer. How were you solicited to speak today?
Absolutely. So I received an email to our COVID response, our generic email, and then the email was forwarded to me. That's kind of how we do our process. And it was an email from the board president, board president. I keep messing up chair and president. And we have also, just in all transparency purposes, we've met with the supers, we've met with the superintendents every Monday since last July. Mark's probably really sick of us, but lots of activity, lots of participation from all 6 of our districts, and we we do let districts know, you know, if you want us to speak at a board meeting related to data, please let us know. So, yep, the option's been there.
How many other districts have you spoken to?
2 other ones, so we're 50%.
Did you want to talk about this next chart?
Sure, Ellie can talk about the vaccine rates.
And we're at 20 minutes here, I just want to
And
keep
we
everybody.
spent an hour on the calls.
Yeah, I just.
With 17 people.
This is just a graph for information for everyone. These are our current percentages of individuals vaccinated by age group within our county. And it obviously is basically an inverse of where we're seeing the cases right now. So when we look, so we're at pretty much 40% of all St. Croix County residents are now fully vaccinated. And so we expect with the advent of summer and we are offering a free vaccination clinic for anyone 12 years or older this week at Nourishment Middle School. And so if that is of interest, vaccinate.wi.gov, that is available and free for anyone. So just to kind of wrap up, you know, our goal, and Kelly and my goal here at Public Health, is always to keep people in school. We do know that COVID can spread within the classroom, their household, and community, while they're asymptomatic or even with mild symptoms. And then we have found that of all the strategies CDC recommends, we recommend that masks are the best strategies, just behind vaccination if it's not available, to stop the infection and the spread. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, was there anything else you wanted to say before I check with the board members to see if there are any other questions?
Nope, I don't think so at this time.
Did anybody else have any other questions for Kelly or Ellie?
Thank you for all your work. It's been a year.
And the same goes to you. This isn't easy, and it really is a community effort. Well, it's long, hard hours for people treating people with COVID, as well as doing contact tracing, as well as trying to keep your doors open in schools, and right back at you.
Thank you. So Kelly, what is the bottom line on the St. Croix County and Wisconsin Department of Health recommendations for K through 12 schools?
So the bottom line is that we, our recommendation would be that you continue to follow CDC's guidance that was put out on May 13th with continuation of masks in the schools, as well as those other exceptions that we highlighted on the slide.
What about outdoors?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of conversation about outdoors, and I'm not sure CDC has really come out and said probably can reduce, you know, use of masks outdoors. I know that there's a group of epidemiologists in our area. So Ellie, another health officer, a gal from Eau Claire, really talking about, as far as transmission goes, out in the outdoor setting. Like, here's a good example. So my son runs track, right? I'm a health officer. I need to set the example. Do I wear my mask outdoors at his track meets? No, I don't. Do I stay physically distanced away from people? Yes, I do. So that's my own personal opinion related to masks outdoors, but we know that masking, you know, transmission, Ellie might have a better way to articulate this for you. Related to transmission outdoors, but we know studies are showing that transmission outdoors is likely not occurring unless there's a ton of physical close contact activity happening. Ellie, anything to add?
No, that follows along the lines of what happens when
So would we be safe to make masks optional for outdoors classes during summer school?
I know some of our districts have already done optional outdoor or no masks outdoors or optional masks, however you want to frame that. And I don't know that we have seen any transmission related to recess or outdoor activities, minus like sporting events where there's close contact. And in fact, that would go back all the way to the fall where I bring up a specific incident related to a football team. You know, football's a lot higher contact sport than say baseball, track. What else happens in the spring? Golf, maybe.
Soccer?
Yeah. Soccer.
Did anybody else have a question for Kelly or Elizabeth? Ellie? No? All right, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for calling in.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You ready?
Jen? Is Jen next?
She's not in the mix.
She give up on us?
That's at 7 to 7:05, so.
She's got little kids.
I did give them the warning that the times were not accurate. Would you like me to go to the next one?
I guess.
Try.
I don't see her either.
What exactly were Dr. Balil and Dr. Ramsey gonna add today? What was their?
In the emails that the board has been receiving, there was a lot of questions about how COVID affects children. And Dr. Balil has treated children with COVID, so she can address that. She is also a member of our community and has children in the district.
Okay.
And just for the record, I was the board member who asked Lori if we could bring in the people who we're supposed to be listening to as guidance as speakers.
Hi, this is Jen Balil.
Hey Jen, can you talk with the school board?
I can. I have the Google Meet up as well, if that's helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Just to share my PowerPoint.
All right, yep. Tasia, do you have Jen?
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up, Jen.
All right.
Let me see if I can share this. Unless Tasia has those 3 slides that I put up there.
I do, I can pull it up too.
Can you do that for me?
Yep.
Okay. Somerset School Board, my name is Jen Balil. I'm a family physician from Osceola Medical Center. After undergrad, I did medical school at the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health, and then my husband and I moved up to Somerset, where he grew up, to do my residency at the University of Minnesota. So I made the trek across the old Stillwater Bridge for many years, or a few years, to get back and forth to Minnesota every day. So I'm hoping to take maybe 4 or 5 minutes of your time and just share, because I was invited to just sort of provide a clinical perspective on what we're seeing in the clinic and in the hospital for COVID-19 for children and for adults. So I practice full spectrum family medicine full time. We do inpatient medicine, clinical medicine. I deliver babies, I do C-sections, and I'm the medical director of our infection prevention committee up in Osceola. So if you can see my slides, I just have 3 brief ones. So things that we're seeing in children really is that kids tend to be minimally symptomatic. The data isn't great because so many are asymptomatic. And so if you don't have symptoms, you won't go get tested. But the ones that do have mild symptoms tending towards fevers, cough, shortness of breath, sometimes muscle aches, runny nose, sore throat. Sometimes it's really difficult to differentiate COVID from allergy symptoms. Sometimes COVID from appendicitis. We've had a few kids come in with ruptured appendicitis because they thought that they were just having symptoms of COVID, got tested, were negative, and then sort of suffered at home for a few days. Loss of smell or taste is one of the minor symptoms in kids, so a lot of adults would sort of notice that their smell and their taste would disappear, and then they'd be suspicious for COVID, but it seems like for kids that that's sort of a less common feature. Usually mild presentations recover in a week or 2, similar to most viral illnesses. There are few kids that have higher complications for infection. So the hospitalization rate cumulative that is in our nation is somewhere around 8 kids per 100,000 individuals. So it ranges from anywhere from low 3s to greater of almost a third, like 33 kids per 100,000. There's a big chunk of those that are kids less than 2, and a lot of that has to do with our higher level of concern for children that have smaller anatomy. Their airways are smaller. They tend to have more symptoms, and parents are worried when they get congestion, and we're just worried that they could, we call it decompensate, or get worse quicker because of their small anatomy and what inflammation can do in their airways. There's a significant complication that happens in only a few kids. It's called multisystem inflammatory syndrome. And the interesting thing about this is that it's not with the initial infection, it's more like 2 to 6 weeks afterwards. So they kind of have their initial COVID symptoms, which are sometimes mild, sometimes completely asymptomatic. And then after that, they go into this really, really pronounced clinical syndrome where they have intense like abdominal pain, fevers. The ones in bold, if you can see the PowerPoint, are kind of predominant symptoms, and they present to the emergency room like very sick. But again, this is definitely a minority of kids. So I network with a lot of docs in the cities, and they're our main referral base. So I'm not sure epidemiologically how the kids that transfer over to Minnesota for care are tracked, but the intensivists are seeing new cases of this every few days. So even though it's not very common, the big referral centers are kind of a mecca and do see this on a fairly regular basis. The trick for us as physicians is recognizing it, because there's so many things that can present this way before you figure out that their serology or their blood is positive for having had a previous COVID infection when they really didn't know it right away. So the issue with these kiddos is that they often need high-dose steroids for months. And there's a really layman's newspaper article about a kiddo from Alexandria that happened to survive this. So the big thing that we see in our clinic is athletes who have had COVID and kind of what it means for return to play for them. So we like to see kids back after they've been infected to make sure from a cardiac perspective that they can participate safely, because COVID affects the heart more than most viruses and can actually lead to honestly, like bad things if you don't recognize that there might be a cardiomyopathy or like inflammation of the heart because of this virus. Another common one that is done, this is like hand, foot, and mouth. A lot of people have heard of that. So it depends on your level of infection. So mild infections, it's usually a visit to your doctor and making sure, but between moderate and severe infections, you're doing some cardiac evaluation to make sure that they're okay. So we know, and the epidemiologists touched on this a lot, but I just wanted to reinforce that there's a lot of professional organizations who still recommend it, just because we really just take an oath of trying to do no harm. And the thought is that for the time being, until we are in the same realm as like measles and mumps and Haemophilus, like those viruses and bacteria that we don't really hear about much anymore because of the public health work that's been done with trying to prevent those conditions is you know, the COVID infections are on par with some of those other ones. So I'm a visual learner, and so I just follow the Minnesota Department of Health because we're close to the cities and have a large population base. But this is the third slide is laboratory surveillance data. So each year they'll track influenza rates throughout the cold and flu season. And so we watch like H1N1 and we watch the different years and how it peaks either earlier on or later on. But the interesting thing that I thought kind of cool this year was as we're waiting for flu season to approach and we're not seeing influenza in clinics, and really it's well people coming in, is this bottom line of red dots is what influenza did this year. So even though we don't have previous SARS-CoV-2 data, we do have previous influenza data, and so the infection prevention measures that we've kind of put in place in our schools and in our communities have really made blunted the infection rates of this virus. And on the right side of the slide, if it's the same on your screen, is RSV. So respiratory syncytial virus is a virus that gives adults a cold, but can be really very inflammatory towards younger children, especially kids under 5. And so kids under like 2-ish or younger tend to be especially susceptible, and those are a lot of the kids that we didn't keep masks this year in daycares and stuff, obviously. And so you can kind of see that there's still little blips of RSV throughout the year, whereas influenza was pretty flatlined. So just a shout out, I just want to say thank you for all that you do for our students. I have a son in 8th grade, and a couple of elementary school kids. So this was my last week. I was on the wards last week. So I mean, I see it. You know, I see the worst. There's people and many layers buffered until patients get to me when they're really sick. But and at this slide, so that's all I wanted to share with you, is that most times kids have a pretty mild infection. There can be severe complications. They're rare, and just from an athletic standpoint, that making sure if we potentially have more infections, making sure our athletes are safe when they do return to play.
Did anybody have any questions for Jen? Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Jen.
Have a good night. Yep, take care.
Hello, Lisa, are you there? Oh, there you
I
are.
am.
So we've been here for an hour and a half, and have you been following along with us?
I have been.
Okay, so is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I think the prior presenters really laid out a very positive case for staying the course right now or summer school while we await new recommendations from the CDC. The caveat I would add is that those summer school classes that plan to be held outside where there's some degree of distancing, I think it is an option to wear masks at that point or not. But when they go back inside, I think masks should be worn for the summer school year. I also think that for close contact sports, we should continue to wear masks. And I am sure we're going to re-meet this issue multiple times this summer as we look at the fall. Our infection rates, as you heard, are only now becoming more reasonable in St. Croix County. We've not been a good poster child for the last couple of months in the state of Wisconsin. Our vaccination rates for 12 and up are growing, but slowly. I know we are all anticipating a vaccination for even younger kids at the elementary school level. I anticipate hearing something positive this fall, but even then it will take weeks to months to really make a dent in our elementary school population with respect to that day where we can all take our masks off. But we will have guidance from the CDC shortly.
So as the medical advisor to the district. What is your advice to the board?
For the remainder of the school year, we continue with our preventive measures as they stand. For summer school, when you are indoors or playing close contact sports, masks should be worn. If you are outside and there can be distancing, an outside class or activity, masks could be optional. And we simply wait for new recommendations, new data on our disease activity and our vaccination rates before we look at how next fall is going to play out.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has a question for Dr. Ramsey? Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Mark?
I'm exhausted. Okay. You know, 42 years in education. I've never been through anything like this, and I don't think any of us have. And what I mean here is there's no past practice or game plan for what we experienced. We did the best we could with the information we were given, and as you know, and you've heard that information changed every week this last year. So with that said, I have to say I'm very pleased and proud that we were able to keep our doors open and our programs running this year. You know, we're one of the few schools that can say this, and a huge thanks goes to our staff. And I mean, these people over here that had to sometimes do things that, you know, seemed a little, you know, out there, but it worked. It worked. What we did work. There's no denying that. You know, and looking at all the emails and conversations we've had over the last few weeks about this, you know, just a little background here. And as you know, we've surveyed the heck out of our people last summer and this fall, and tried to carry out the wishes of the community. And I believe we had over 95% of our parents saying, keep our doors open, do what you can. You know, and we also formed that reopening committee, and I can't remember if we met in July or August, that really, you know, was a collaborative look at what our protocol should be for this last year. And again, not knowing what to expect, I think everybody, all employees did a fantastic job with those protocols. And I'm confident that in saying that what we developed last summer really led to the success that we had this year with keeping our doors open. You know, over the year, and every day I'm on a news feed with a lot of districts around the state, and kind of monitoring what's happening. And you know, again, I don't say this lightly, but I think you've got one side over here, one side over here. Whatever happens has to come through with some common sense as we move forward on this. You know, and the districts across the state have had the same protocols, but they've adjusted, you know, kind of monitored, adjusted throughout the year, making changes where they need to. And the recent adjustments have been in this whole area of the mask mandate. You know, the vast majority of schools are ending their mandatory indoor mask requirement upon the last day of school, which typically around the state is June 3rd. We happen to be the oddball there, or the outlier, because of a late start. We go to March 10th, so we had 12 more, what did I say? June. Told you I was tired. June 14th is our last scheduled day with students.
June 10th.
What am I? June 10th is the last scheduled day for students, 11th for staff.
Summer school starts the 14th, right?
Yeah.
Right, I'm sorry. Getting all these dates mixed up here. Many of the school districts in our area have already made commitments as far as, you know, we're ending the mask mandate the last day of school, and they've gotten a lot of pressure to end it right now, as you know, we're getting the same pressure. And for the schools in the MVC, you know, we've always tried to stay together on this, because we're all experienced the same type of numbers at some point or another. However, again, we were the only ones that didn't have to go to a hybrid or what have you during this. There's only one school in the CISA district of 30-some schools that's requiring masks for summer school, and that's Teppan is requiring that. As I look at our infections, Ryan and I are in contact every day. We're down to one infection right now, and we have 6 close contacts. Our staff was surveyed, and I forwarded you that information this last week, and it's pretty even, basically 60-40 on making optional either tonight or the last day of school, which kind of tells you where the staff is at.
Well, that's how you ask them. Do you want to remove them?
We asked them how safe they felt and what their feeling is towards the mask mandate. And there was other comments on there with some other solutions also that you've seen all those. And the interesting piece about this survey, I think Tasia put it out around 9 o'clock in the morning. About an hour and a half later, she came back to me, what do you want me to do with the data? And I'm, what are you talking about? Well, there was 150 people that answered this in about an hour and a half. That's just tells you how alert they are to this topic. You know, if you look closely at the data that Ryan provided, and I just got that out this morning, you'll see that our transmission rate along lines of students with that are close contact was 1%. So that either tells us that the masks are working, or the transmission rate isn't. The transmission isn't there among young people. So you have policies 8450 and 8450.01. Those are to be adhered to by every individual, including the board members. However, the board as a whole, you have the privilege of changing policy or making exemptions to any policy. And this is what other districts are doing that have the same policy, that have already committed to no masks at the end of the year, at the end of the student year. You know, with that considered, as I mentioned in my weekend update, my recommendation still is to maintain the mask level till the end of the year, June 10th. If you end it tonight, so be it. We'll deal with it. We'll adjust. And the thing is if the numbers change, we can always go back to it at any time.
That'd be a piece of cake.
Nothing's a piece of cake. What we've been dealing with here.
Just a month ago that you said, Mark, that our numbers were high, and we're hoping that they're coming down. I mean, the last 2 months prior to that, so.
And they've come down significantly.
Yeah.
You know, they have, and again, the recommendation, formal recommendation is to follow suit with the other MVC schools and keep it in place until the 10th.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Mark?
No.
Did anybody have any questions for Mark? All right, then.
Questions or comments?
Board discussion is next. Yes, Sheree, would you like to begin?
I do, yes. One of the things that I love about Somerset is that we are leaders, and that is just so apparent in how we're running, at the high school level right now. Bringing in foreign exchange students, it was just fascinating to see them just light up when they realized what we were doing here, and it was just so progressive. So I've always felt that we've been leaders, and we've always looked at the best interests of our kids, and our teachers have just done a phenomenal job this year. I look at kids, junior kindergarten and kindergartners that their first year of school, or they only had a little bit of time last year, that have been masked this entire school year, and they've had some flexibility now outside. It seems that they can see their friends smile and whatnot, but think about what they're missing for verbal cues and their communication skills and their phonetics and everything that's lacking for a 4 or 5 year old, or anyone in elementary school. And then I think about junior high and all the emotions that you're going through as your body is changing, and not being able to, the one child said, see my friends and know what's happening, what their expression is, because all I can see is from here down. And then our high schoolers, this is their last go of being kids and being able to enjoy life to the fullest without the responsibilities that we have. And we truly are their voice. We truly are the people that need to stand up for them. You all know that we've been a foster home. I will say sometimes the teachers are the only smiling face that a kid is going to see in a day. The only person who's going to show emotion and be happy to see them. And it is profound when these kids can't pick up on those cues. They can't tell if their teacher is happy, if their teacher is sad, and getting that positive feedback. You had mentioned a little bit about Ryan's study. North Carolina did a study, and their results were that 99.968% of the kids did not get COVID from school. So the transmission that they had was less than 1%, and it was not from the school. I'm hearing over and over from our experts that came up, from the information that we are following, we're using the CDC guidelines. So I'm not sure if you guys are following news, but last week, May 19th, the second person in command at the CDC, Ann Shukat, I think is how you say her name, stepped down from her role as a principal deputy director because she was colluding with the teachers' unions to keep the schools closed. So I'm hearing all this about the CDC, and I'm really wondering, what is their agenda? Who are they representing and why? There's a great website, epiforecast.io, and they really do collect data from a neutral perspective. And they have seen a dramatic change in the rate of spread and the reproduction number. And I can get you guys this website. Their data is, the litmus test for herd immunity is less than 1%. Wisconsin as a whole in St. Croix County is at like 0.89%. So their litmus test of herd immunity, we're already at it. You know, we're hearing that kids should wear masks so they're not spreading this virus, but the kids aren't spreading this virus anyway, and the teachers that want to be vaccinated are vaccinated. That's a done deal. So I don't believe the kids are going to be spreading it to the teachers. If the masks are so effective in stopping the spread, why are the numbers virtually the same in states like North Dakota and South Dakota? They have the same amount of people living there. One's masked and doing social distancing, the other is not. Numbers are the same. After Texas removed their mandates, their numbers dropped. Elk Mound removed their mandates a couple weeks ago. They have not seen an increase. They have 0 right now. And I'm going to add to that. The next day, the teachers reported and the students reported the mood in those schools changed exponentially. These elementary students were running up and hugging their friends because they could truly be with them and engage in all those nonverbal cues that they've missed throughout the year. So teachers have the vaccines that want it, they're protected. Parents, you know, Mark alluded a little bit to what's happening in our middle border conference. If we don't give our parents the choice to allow their kids the choice, they're going to go to other schools. We've all seen those emails from parents. I know a handful. They come into my store all the time and tell me, if you guys are not going to give us the choice, we are either going to homeschool, we're going to pull from summer school, we're going to look at other options next year. All day long, I'm hearing that. So, you know, one of the things that came up in a lot of the teachers' comments were vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, we'll allow you. It's based on vaccination. If they have confirmed vaccination records, once they've proven to the building that they've been vaccinated. This sounds like Nazi Germany to me. Show me your papers.
That's Jewish. I'm sorry, but you cannot compare the Holocaust, where they killed 6 million people,
But it
with
was,
putting on a mask.
show me your papers, was how it started, right?
We have to show our papers to get into school. Like, you have to provide vaccination record of your student, otherwise you have to provide
Some districts.
Have you seen our policies?
Some districts, but
but
this is still in its experimental stage until 2023.
But you're comparing
it's the show me your
genocide.
papers.
You're comparing a genocide, a
I'm
human
comparing-
genocide, to wearing masks.
Okay, you're missing the point, but we'll just move on. All right, so is our school listening to the concerns of these parents? We had how many lined up today saying the same thing through and through? They want our kids to have the choice. It's not saying everybody has to take your masks off. It is saying let the parents and these children decide what works best for them. So are we giving our kids the opportunity to be independent thinkers, or are we just teaching them to be fearful and compliant with whatever we're telling them to do? As a school board, our core values include, and I'm just going to highlight a few, each and every person is accepted and valued. We believe in empowering all learners. We believe change is our opportunity for growth. We believe involved communities foster strong schools. We believe in cultivating leaders. Are we doing that with our decisions in regards to this mask mandate? We also took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Wisconsin. The first sentence in the Wisconsin Declaration of Rights states in Section 1, all people are born equally free and independent. They have certain inherent rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Section 3, the due process of the 14th Amendment includes the fundamental right of parents to make decisions concerning the care, custody, and control of their children, including the right to direct upbringing and education of children under their control. So if the virus was as contagious as we say it is, and if these masks were doing such a justice, shouldn't we have hazmat containers sitting around when we're throwing these out if the virus is going to be contained on them?
Don't lick them.
Don't lick
Don't
them?
lick them from the garbage, yes. If you don't pick them up and lick them, you won't catch it.
Okay. All right. So going back to Section 840, it's the control of casual contact of communicable diseases. Again, I want to remind us that it's the St. Croix County Department recommendations. And of course, we're hearing them saying it should be through the end of summer, the kids should wear it through summer school, but every other district around us is not doing that. So we as a district need to decide what we are going to be doing for our kids.
To clarify, that was the district's medical advisor, not St. Croix County. It was the school district's medical advisor. Who said that?
Very good. All right. Prom, we had the doors wide open at prom, and so it was an outdoor event, right? Kids were not having to wear masks. The cheer went up through the crowd because they knew that they could have that time with their friends without the masks on. Our seniors are done. We don't have to worry about affecting graduation. Prom is done. We don't need to worry about it affecting that. I am worried. I know that the schools have seen a huge increase. I was happy to hear Patty say that there's not been a lot of suicides, but I know each of these schools are dealing with extreme mental health issues with a lot of these kids. It's skyrocketed what our counselors are having to deal with. So I'm pleased that the students are not taking it to that next step, but it does not mean that it is not having a huge impact. So who needs our voice? Who are we representing? Who are we going to allow to take the narrative? You know, are we going to worry about what the CDC says? I've got a question. What is the weather going to be like in Atlanta tomorrow?
Can we get
don't
back
know.
to the topic
So,
at hand, please?
Atlanta is where the CDC is from. So they make a decision based in Atlanta that trickles to Wisconsin, that trickles to St. Croix County, that trickles to our board, right? We know what's happening in our district and we know the impact of that. We need to make a decision based on what we know and what our district needs, not
I don't
what
think
somebody
the
from.
CDC makes
We're taking their guidelines, right?
guidelines based on the weather in Atlanta. I think they look at all the input from all over the United States. They don't just willy-nilly make something because the weather's good. It's,
And that was not about the weather. It was they are down there and
yes,
they're
they
not
are
up
down
here.
there, but they're looking at data from all over the United States. They're
we-
not just making willy-nilly decisions.
But we see what's happening in our district and we know that we're at one case, right?
Well, they see what's happening at our district too. They have epidemiologists all over the place. They get information. They don't just make a decision based on what they feel.
But the CDC doesn't say in St. Croix County in Wisconsin, because your numbers are low, you guys can make a different
But in
decision.
St. Croix County, our numbers are the highest in the state. Our numbers have been the highest in the state.
But not in our school. And the one parent had commented, when our kids leave here, how many kids are still masking when they walk out of this building?
Can we get back to the topic we're supposed to be discussing, which is COVID protocols for the Somerset School District? I mean, are you saying, I'm assuming, that you want to unmask now.
I believe we should have it be optional.
So, if other board members could weigh in, that might continue to move the topic forward. It's just throwing in all the stuff from, I don't know, everywhere.
Statistics.
Is not helpful to the discussion about what we're gonna do. We saw all the stuff everybody wrote in, and we've been hearing about it all year, you know. So can we just get to a point where we can talk about what we're gonna do as a district going forward, please?
So Katie, is there anything you wanted to say, add to the discussion?
Well, I'm going to make a motion.
All right. I was gonna let people get heard before I made one. Go for it.
Well, no, with that, you still have the discussion,
Right,
and you
right,
can
right.
vote it up or
Yep.
down.
Yep.
But I move that we allow for summer school, which is 4 hours a day, it's not, 8 hours a day, but we allow the choice as recommended for outside activities. But inside the classrooms, I think the kids should continue to remain masked. We've got kids who have been no choice yet to get vaccinated. So that's my recommendation. In my motion, I'm limiting it to summer school, and let's see what happens for the fall.
I'll second. There is a motion on the floor to continue masking indoors.
Yeah.
Well, continue our protocols for the rest of the school year.
Yes.
And continue masking indoors during summer school with masks optional outdoors for summer school, and continue gathering the data and listening to DHS and St. Croix County. So Katie has made that motion, and
I'll
Patty
second it.
Jo has seconded it. Patty Jo, is there anything that you would like to add to a discussion on that motion?
I have been in COVID houses. I have had COVID deaths. I've been on scenes with COVID patients. My grandpa died from COVID. So while we've gotten emails saying no one has died from COVID, I happen to have personally been affected with a death from COVID. I am very happy that a lot of our community members haven't had that experience, because it is horrible. And as people try to minimize the death or try to blame it on other underlying circumstances or whatever, it doesn't matter what you guys think, because the death certificates say what they say. And being that I'm in the medical examiner's office, I also know that they're not padded, that the science is what creates these documents. And so maybe my 80-some-year-old grandpa didn't matter to some people. He mattered to my gigantic family. And that loss is huge, and no one in this community should suffer that. On top of that, I cannot pick out an elementary school child and think, that one's disposable. I can't. I feel we need to be the safety for all of the students. We have stuff in place so people can't come in the schools all willy-nilly to prevent school shootings. We have stuff in place for all of these things. Parents don't make the decisions for safety once they're in our school. It is the school board and the school administrators and the school principals' jobs and the teachers to make sure these students are safe. As much as I understand these parents' frustration, I have a kindergartner who had his junior kindergarten year attacked, ended. He was horribly online educated by me for the first half of this year, and I failed horribly. He came back in person, and he's been doing awesome. He still touches kids because he gets letters home all the time. He's still hugging because he's getting letters home from. He's still smiling, and he's still doing those things. I have a freshman that his school, I mean, as much as I shouldn't talk about it, it suffered, but not because of the wearing masks, but because of other circumstances in school. This stuff has brought up other issues. My senior, he is graduating this year, and he had his prom. He didn't get his junior prom. He gets his graduation. He gets these things because of what the school district has done. We've worked really, really hard. And to drop it just because this handful of people It's not the majority. It is a handful of people. If you look at this list, it is 11 different households. It is not, and then you do the other side of the people that were for and that provide letters. There were 4 students in there. Did you even read their letters? They're asking us to keep it so their school year can continue. Like, it's a hot topic, but it's not political. I'm not here to further my political career. I am here to make sure that our students are safe and to do what's best for my constituents. It's not just a select few. I don't have favorites. And I believe this is a nonpartisan position. I don't believe my personal politics belong anywhere near here. I don't have personal politics when I walk into this door. It's what is best for the students. So if some people want to represent a handful of parents, awesome. I refuse to do that.
But what about the 84.7% of the
Sherry,
teachers?
you already spoke for quite a long time. Patty Jo?
And that's,
thank you. Roxanne, would you like to weigh in on this discussion?
Am I supposed to weigh in on the motion or just the?
Yes.
On any,
Do I
just
vote on the
discussion?
motion or
No,
just talk?
no discussion.
Okay.
Just discussion.
All right, I do have some words and I'll be very, very quick. I'm sorry, I didn't know I'd be next. Okay, I just want to say that a couple of weeks ago, I really was of the thought that we only have a few weeks left, so we should stay status quo. I wanted our students to enjoy prom and not compromise commencement. Now prom is over and the seniors are no longer in the buildings. Parents did make some very valid points that masks likely aren't even being worn properly, and some of it's mask fatigue, I know, but I also think the teachers are fatigued with having to remind kids to wear them properly. It's wasted valuable instruction time having them, remind them to wear them properly. Another point was made, and I had it in my notes. Kids are out and about without masks in this town. Go anywhere. I even went to Minnesota over the weekend, and I was very surprised the lack of masks that were being worn in Minnesota, which really used to be the ultimate mask wearers. So like I said a couple of weeks ago, I was of the thought, let's just finish out the year status quo. But then I see this going on, and I think, whether we agree with it or not, we have turned a corner in mask protocol. I'm not saying it's right to wear a mask or wrong to wear a mask. I'm just saying when you go out and about, you see nobody's really wearing masks anymore. And I believe too that we do have a duty to protect our students and teachers. And I think we really did an amazing job this year. I think because of all the work and the principals looking at video to look at close contacts is why we're still here, in person. But I do believe that when in the beginning, it's a pandemic, we did not know anything about it. And we have turned a corner in what I believe to be an opportunity for us to make masks optional, where parents and children can decide what's best for them. If anybody is concerned about getting the virus and they truly believe in masks, then they can wear their mask to school. Patty Schochner made an excellent point about bullying. I am very concerned about that. Clear Lake sent an amazing letter. It was shared with us by a parent, which really, and I think we could model that letter that talks about behavior, bullying expectations around bullying that we would really need to talk to our kids about so that they don't, both choices aren't bullying each other for their choice. But I also think we as parents can model anti-bullying behavior and not be bullies ourselves, because I've seen a lot of it in the last couple of weeks, and we're not modeling anti-bullying behavior in this community. So I have to be honest, I am of the thinking that I'm ready to go mask optional. I'm honest here. I also want to challenge this community to dare to be different and be the exception to the negativity and anger present in this district and surrounding districts. Let's be the exception. How can we bridge the incredible divide we're seeing in our community? How can we all be part of the solution? Opinions are everywhere. Negativity abounds.
how can we turn this into a celebration and gratitude for the incredible year we've had? And so I challenge the community to send letters of gratitude to people on this campus who have worked tirelessly this year to keep our students in school, and coaches and advisors who's kept students in sports and activities. So while it might not be the popular opinion of this board, I am ready to seriously discuss masks optional, at the very least for summer school. And I really want to think about not having to require masks indoors too. And I'd like to take it a step further. I'd like to consider possibly awarding our seniors with a mask-free commencement if it ends up indoors. I mean, I know this is a bit bold, but these are things that I've really given this a lot of thought.
What day is commencement?
June 6th, 1 o'clock.
6th.
Just after you get there.
And that's it for me. Stan?
That's it for me.
Okay. Bruce?
Thanks, Roxanne. That was really good. I think the board, or the district's done great, just like everybody said. And I've talked about it, that we get through this year and we make them optional for summer school, inside and out. And the reason, I see our policy and it says we'll follow this, public health, DHS, all that stuff, recommendations. So we follow the recommendations while kids need to be in school, which is through the end of the school year. After the school year, Katie, I love almost all of yours, and I'm probably gonna try to amend yours to say that masks be optional for summer school, inside and out. And in my mind, it gives us a compromise of, you know what, we want to get through the year, we've done great so far, everybody's done great, we're not going to have the bullying that you're saying. If a kid keeps wearing it, you know how embarrassed the kids are anyway about being that one-off, because my mom says this or my dad, and I just don't want to deal with it. I think it's best we just keep it through the end of the year, and then it's optional for summer school, which is an optional program for people to send their kids to. And that would give us, in my mind, good data from inside a school. And that's why I think we do it inside, is if we have a big blowout in school where a whole bunch of kids get COVID and they're in the classroom, smaller classes are usually what summer school classes are. If there's a lot of kids who get COVID this summer, or there's a major outbreak and it's traced back to a in-person here, that only changes the perspective that we have for the fall. And that's why, because we're gonna have this same pushback in the fall of how do we handle the fall, and if the vaccination is available for kids 5 through 12, ages 5 through 12, and how many of those kids need to have the vaccine before we make masks optional? I guess I just wanna see, we have 6 weeks of summer school, and if summer school has to be shut down after 3 weeks because we have so many kids with it, well, that gives us, as a board, very good data, and that's what everybody screams for, is the data. That gives us in our district, in our immediate, as close to us as we can get, information for next school year that, hey, we tried. The numbers were 1 kid when the board sat here and made the recommendation. And with 3 weeks into summer school, we had 6, 7, 8, 18 kids, and a whole class had to be home with. So
But it wouldn't be obvious 3 weeks.
well, fine. So the second term, the second 4 to 6 weeks. I guess that's my thought. But so take them off today. No, I hear it. I know it. I'm vaccinated. I'm gonna go out and coach the little kids baseball, and not one of us are gonna be wearing masks on the baseball field outside. And I'm probably gonna be too close to the kid just because that's probably came out wrong, but anyway, that's where I feel. And Katie, I'm really close to yours. I'm happy you brought that motion, but if there was any way you would amend it, maybe you can respond here to allowing for the summer school, and I know why you didn't, and this has been tough for all of us, but that's mine, is that it gives us to know, because in July, we'll know, there was a lot of kids that have it. And I'm sure there's a really good line that I'm gonna hear that we're gonna put kids at risk. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying there's a lot of data that, well, like, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask you a question that I
Yes.
already know the answer to because you shared it with me Thursday night. How many kids on your ball team were absent last week because of?
Yeah, there was 5 of them out of the 12.
5 out of 12.
Yep.
For contact or positive?
Contact. None of them had it. They all were negative, but they all had it. It was one of the 4th grade classes. We had 4 kids. 4 kids were close contact. 1 was sick and was out for, he didn't want to. But yeah, there was, yes, 5 out of 12 were out.
And then did you want to respond to anything to Bruce, or?
Why
should
do
we
you
go
think
with
that
what
will
we-
get better if the kids aren't wearing masks indoors? The close contact outs, because I see that. A teacher commented on one of the, or I don't know, I just
Right.
assumed.
Staff member?
Yeah,
member, yeah.
staff member.
Yeah.
Brought that up, and it struck me quite strongly that if we're in classrooms unmasked and there is a positive case or 2.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask them.
Then you got the close contact issue, and it's without masks, you're gonna make it worse.
Well, it was, how long was are we gonna keep doing the close contact tracing? I wanted to ask them, and I didn't write it down. That was one of my questions is,
Or do
Well-
you know anything about that?
I don't know how long.
because like, again, the 5 kids who were out, not one of them had it. It was one other kid, or somebody who's in contact with some kid or whatever, but none of those kids had it and tested positive.
Mark is trying to answer.
Sorry.
The contact tracing will continue through the summer the best they can do it. One of the concerns with St. Croix County Health is that most school nurses aren't on duty in the summer. So St. Croix County Health has some funds, and they're looking at how to disperse these funds, and it's looking possibly we might get a share of that to fund a person in district just to do contact tracing.
Wow.
So again, that hasn't been decided yet, but that's one of the, so it'll continue, but it might be at different levels. St. Croix County Health's not gonna do it. It's gonna be on the district's shoulder. That's why they might contribute some funds to us to help do that, so.
Kate, your question was, what was that? Why would it stop?
Well, it's gonna make it worse.
Well, and I guess
That's my other point, and that had not dawned on me until I read that comment, but they were absolutely right, in my opinion. Because now, you can still be distanced by 3 feet, have the kids, but without a mask. And if neither one of them was wearing a mask, you're looking at a whole wider range area of kids being out for close contact.
Well, I think they'd still be the same close contact, because I think if you're still in close contact, you're out, no matter if you have a mask or don't have a mask. I'm just saying, is it gonna travel? So if so-and-so gets out, if kid A gets out because they have COVID, and now we have a bunch of close contacts, like I said, that whole group, none of them got COVID, but now if you have B, C, D, and E, who are close contacts, and they all now get COVID, we'll have, again, the data of, okay, parents, this is what happened. We had kid A, now B, C, and D got it. If you go back to the school year, all these kids that would sit out,
We
the
can
numbers.
have that comparison with the other school districts,
What do you mean?
because the other school districts within St. Croix.
Yeah, but that's not Somerset, that is not us, that is
Well-
not, and again, we're the only school that made it through all year.
I know.
They didn't, so.
I know, yeah.
So this is Somerset School District, not the New Richmond / Somerset. Yeah, Mark.
Just a couple points of clarification. I think either a month or 2 ago, we talked at a work session about what was coming up for the summer and spring sports, and I believe we agreed that everything outside is unmasked, which would, take that portion of the motion. The thing that you're looking at now is just whether inside the summer
Yeah.
we're wearing it. The other comment that was made about commencement, I did ask that question specifically to the districts that have, in CISA, that have held indoor commencements, what they did in case ours gets forced inside, so we kind of follow the same protocol. They recommended masks, and people were very good about it. No one was the mask police, but people came in typically with them and took them off when they sat down. No one made a big deal of it, so I would suggest that if our commencement gets rained out, we do make a caveat that masks are recommended, but then leave it at that. So,
Masks are recommended but not required.
They're
Is that what you mean?
recommended.
They're recommended. Gotcha.
End of transition.
I'm not interested in changing my motion. No offense.
I just, I mean, and-
But if you want to amend it. so
Yeah,
if you-
I guess it just because we go back to if we have contact tracing, and we have kids with masks, or we have kids without masks, are we still gonna require the kids with masks out like we do our current contact tracing? Because the same amount of kids would be out if they had masks or if they didn't have masks. Now we would know, yes,
I don't,
yes, am I,
Shannon or Abby or.
it doesn't matter if you have a mask on or not,
You
correct?
address that?
Yeah, close contact's a close contact.
Either way.
Either way.
Right now, currently.
Yeah.
Even if you're masked.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So, but what if no one was masked? Would it be the same range
Recommendation.
of distance?
So currently, right now, correct, and I can't speak for Ryan in terms of if there's some sort of change happening, but currently, that would not matter based off of our current protocols we use for determining a close contact.
Okay.
But our current protocols are based on everybody being masked.
I'm sorry.
Our current protocols are based on the fact that our students are masked.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
So if they weren't masked, would our,
Either one.
I don't think it would change, honestly, because, but what would change is the difference that they're not gonna be able to isolate groups like we have now in the schools, because they have different classes that they're signing up for. So could that potentially end up shutting stuff down if they go to
Well-
one class?
I think
Right?
Yeah, she's gonna be next.
That's okay.
Go Marge.
Marge.
Well, I think that the reason everything went so well this year and we were able to stay open is because of the protocols with the mask. I think I'm for what you're saying, your motion till the end of the year, wear them. And then summer school optional outside. Yeah, but I don't think that we would have had as much luck keeping school open if we didn't have the protocols for the mask wearing and everything that they have.
we came close.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Is this round table or round?
No.
No, okay. Not yet then.
All right, so I have a couple remarks. One is that one of the things I'm concerned about is that we got the comment from a person involved with the Spartan daycare associated with our school district, that Kids Club will be required to follow DCF, Wisconsin State Child Care Licensing mask rules. So if our school makes masks optional, but state licensing still requires them, they will still have to be worn by Spartan Kid Care staff, kids, and parents. And that is a situation I really do not want to be in when I want our district to be consistent. I don't want to have the daycare within our school requiring masks when the school district at large is not. Second, we have policies, and our policy does not say that we will follow DHS and St. Croix County's recommendations except during summer school. It says we will follow the recommendations. And Mark alluded to changing the policy, but I'd sure like to have a suggestion on just exactly what you would recommend we change the policy to. That we will control communicable diseases based on what the other middle border conference schools do. And I think maybe the last comment I have is that when Travis Belil, our local fire chief, is putting out a house fire, he doesn't leave before he is absolutely positive that every ember has been put out. We are so close. We are so close to achieving the goal of the world to end this pandemic. Why would we stop when we're so close to the finish line? Patty Jo, would you mind getting Katie to come back for the vote?
And vote.
Thank you.
Can I say something or not?
Yes.
I completely agree with that statement, except for the kid. I mean, let's face it, when the kids are out and about, they're not wearing masks.
But we can only control what we have control over.
But
and you know what else? You know, parents have control over their children and they have free will. But we have laws about seatbelts. And we have laws about child seats in cars.
But I hear you, there's no law on masks though.
No, but there are rules, and it's not up to the parent to decide whether or not their child will be in a car seat. If they don't get to just decide on their own. So is there any more discussion, or would we like to call the question?
I would like to make an amendment we amend Katie's motion to say masks be optional, District of Somerset starting June 11th.
14th?
June 11th. The kids will be gone, the teachers who already have the vaccine who want it. June 11th.
So Bruce has made a motion to amend the motion on the floor. Is there anyone who will second Bruce's motion to amend?
So repeat your
Masks would be optional starting
inside
starting June 11th.
I second that.
All right, so there is a motion and a second for an amendment to Katie's motion. So first we will vote on the amendment. All right, so Patty Jo, do you approve Bruce's amendment?
No.
Roxanne?
Yes.
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 No?
No.
So the amendment fails.
Shit.
And the motion on the table remains that we continue masks indoors until DHS or St. Croix County recommends differently. That motion has been made and seconded. Let's see.
Do we have to make a motion?
It wasn't really my motion, but.
Is it close enough? Or do you want to say it again? Or Tasia, would you read back the original motion?
Yep, continue current protocols for the duration of the school year and beginning with summer school, allow optional mask wearing when outdoors, but keep mandatory masks while indoors.
Okay. Marge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Bruce?
I sure don't want to wear masks outside, but I think it's already optional outside. So I don't know the point of this motion if they're already optional outside.
Because they're still mandatory inside.
Yeah, well, no, I don't know.
Okay.
No. No? Yes. Okay, motion carries 4-3.
I'd like to make a motion. Can we do a motion on meetings? Is that part of this protocol tonight? Opening meetings back up, or?
We'll take that up a different night, please. We still have the rest of the agenda to go through, and it wasn't on the agenda, so we can't
COVID
address.
protocol though.
That's not our meetings.
That's not our meetings.
But isn't that COVID protocol the reason that the meeting is closed?
We can take it up at the very next June 7th.
We can take
Be
it
on
up
the work session for June 7th?
Sure, we need to put that on the
Okay.
agenda. We can put it
Okay.
on the agenda.
Okay.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is,
Student report?
yes, student representatives report. There is not an.
I did not get anything sent to me.
Okay, thank you. Construction update, please, Mark?
Sure. Really, there isn't much here, but we're having our final site meeting this week. The DO parking piece here before it goes to bid, it's been delayed. It's going to go to bid, I believe, in the first week of June. The estimate numbers are still looking good, which I'm very concerned about. The big piece right now that we've been presented with, because of all the development around us that's coming here in the future, it's the whole issue of the water runoff and the water shedding, and that's why we have to look at expanding the pond out there. Well, they have a bigger issue because their water has to cross our property.
Oh.
And so now we're, a couple of things. What I'm trying to do is, if it comes through in one location, they would come into our pond, get them to pay for our pond. It's about a $50,000 deal. The other piece for them is to pipe it up. They're putting a big retaining pond over on the other side of the elementary school. And you know, there's a little wetland there. So what they're looking at doing is digging a pipeline in to go the tree line where the farmer farms there. Okay, that's okay with us, but if we have any future development, they're gonna put in a 12-inch line. If we do any further development up there, we need a 24-inch line to take care of our future needs. If we ever end up putting a building up there, we want to look for the future. Bob's comment was to me the other day is we should start doing some master planning for that site. It'll take place of what if scenarios. What if 350 homes go in there? Obviously our enrollment's gonna go. We're gonna have to look at expanding different ways, maybe another building. Again, these are what ifs. Where would that building go? So we have to make some assumptions, and not that we have to do this tomorrow, but what we're trying to do is we want them to pay for our future expansion, so we don't have to dig that old field up again for runoff. And if they put that pipeline in, they wouldn't go into our pond, they'd go directly into a spillway that goes into the Larry Forest and down on the Apple River. So again, it's not a hang up, but we're trying to leverage our, our future for them to pay for some of these pieces. So again, nothing in concrete yet, or pipe. So that, again, that's just the only update I have for you right now. The rest of the construction on the other buildings will start as soon as kids are out of here.
Have they looked at repainting that white line that's coming out of the elementary driveway that's supposed to be yellow?
Yeah, I know, I mentioned that, and I haven't heard anything back on that, but it should be yellow.
Yes.
It should be yellow, because then people know it's a divided
Yes.
road.
And I mean, that was a mistake on their part when they did it.
Yeah, and I brought that up quite a while ago, and it just, between COVID and everything else,
Yeah.
so I'll check on it, but you're right, it should be yellow line.
Okay. Anything else on construction?
That's enough.
Yeah.
It'll keep till June 7th.
It'll definitely keep for quite a while, but, when we talk about future expansion, we're talking 5, 10, 15 years out.
Well, that's
So
ways
it's-
out.
It's,
If you need it, because by then we could all be remote learning.
Well, I think we've
Right,
proved
right.
that did not work so well.
Worked well for some.
So, that's it. And the only other thing with the enrollment report, we gained 10 students last month.
Woohoo.
So,
And these are students who are returning from homeschooling?
no, I
or
believe these are new students. Yeah,
They moved into the district?
yeah.
Awesome.
Either moved or open enrolled.
Okay, thank you.
High school?
All through, one here, one there, look at the roll.
All schools.
Open enroll JK.
All right. Did anybody have any questions on the enrollment report or the financial report? Nope. Learner connectedness. We've got staffing here, a 1.0 FTE reading specialist position and a 1.0 FTE CTE position at the high school. Would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 5A, 1, and 2.
All right, so we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Patty Jo. Any questions or comments on this item?
Thank you, Trish and Shannon, for presenting.
I emailed Mark about the expense, and I asked another follow-up question about whether expected regular revenue will cover the expense of adding these two positions next year as well as in the future. And, you know, he doesn't have a crystal ball, but basically, Mark, you said we're good for the time being.
I'm very confident in these positions, and I mentioned in my note, I think I sent that out to everyone, that I'm very cautious on the other position until we know where our financial status is.
Somerset School District had a half-time reading specialist and 2 business teachers in the past. It was an administrative decision to cut those. So by adding these 2 positions, we're having a net increase of 0.5. I would like administrators to provide some data at the end of the 21-22 school year to show that this was a positive investment in our school district. So a motion by Bruce and a second by Patty Jo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Advanced operations budget amendment. Dave indicated to me in an email that he would be presenting on this.
He's in his
He'll be here, probably a little delayed.
He did have asked Tasia to attach an additional.
Yeah, I saw that. It didn't show up till today though, the actual numbers.
Yeah.
That's when I got it.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Wanted to make sure.
But I work during the
I think
day.
there's a delay. I heard this just came.
Yeah,
There's wheels on it, other way.
I don't know. Have Shannon do it.
She can handle it over there.
All right, so the budget amendment. I was gonna hand out the summary format for expenditure and revenue at the meeting here, but Lori said, wouldn't it be a great idea to link it? And so that was linked today. So, oh, there it is. So this is the summary function format for expenditure that you see in the leftmost column is the budget that was approved. The box goes around the budget amendment that's proposed, and then the change is the rightmost column. And then underneath is the summary revenue by source, and then at the bottom you see the net, and then the change in fund balance as well for this budget amendment. So in summary, what this is just all of the things that we've discussed as the bigger changes that we've seen occur this year, specifically related to compensation. Is the big expenditure in addition. Both the regular compensation and the stipend are included in this, everything that's actual as of right now is included. Some of the COVID costs that we started the year with allocations that we were uncertain of, or throughout the year we've changed. So like we reduced the blue ribbon amount that we're paying. That's now in there to reflect the actual expectation. We reduced some sub-costs and some of the stipends for the online, the local teaching of online courses, the virtual teaching. It reflects the actual amount as well. So it's some additions and some subtractions. You can see the net.
But can we clarify that we had not budgeted for the salary increases or anything?
Correct.
So this was to be expected.
Correct. And that's why
if the year went well.
Correct. And that's why I proposed an amendment, because it is a big change from a normal year. And in any given year, we are never right on with what we budget in a $19 million budget. It's always a little high, a little low here and there. But we knew that this was a big expenditure, specifically the compensation. There's also some decent amounts that were reduced through the COVID amounts that have been updated since the start of the year. And on the revenue side at the bottom, the change is $140,000. That's the poverty-based calculation for ESSER 2 that we've talked about, where CISA has confirmed to me that we can claim that for this year. We have not claimed it yet, but we plan to as soon as we can, as soon as we're able to. And the reason it's negative $40,000 and $180,000 is I had at the start of the year budgeted ESSER 1 as a pass-through in a state source, but that's not correct. It's all federal, so I just had to change that as long as we're making an amendment here. So all that being said, that's the overview. Any questions? Questions how this looks or what's proposed here? The proposal is accept the budget amendment as presented, and the specific dollar amount is the $19,737,686, the general fund expenditure amount.
So it looks like, please correct any inaccuracies. At the beginning of the year, it looks like we were looking at a 600,000. What were we looking?
The net?
Yes, the net, we were running at a loss.
264,314. That's just below the revenue box there. That's the deficit when you subtract the budgeted expenditures from the budgeted revenues.
So over and over and over again, I kept hearing $800,000 over budget.
No, our COVID expenditure was about $850,000.
Right, yeah.
Our COVID specific expenditure.
Yeah.
But
So
that didn't mean we're over budget. That just means what we're expending on
Okay,
COVID-related
all right.
issues, yeah.
Those are things we intentionally said, we're going to increase these costs for the purpose of mitigating COVID and being in session.
Hoping we'd get reimbursed.
Right, and that's still a wild card, is what the state's gonna do and what the ESSER 3 is going to be, and it's the political football right now.
At the time we did it, we didn't have any idea if we get reimbursed or not.
Yeah.
But we were hoping it was for 1 year, and that's, the majority of that is planned to be just this 1 year.
So this year, we are still running almost $380,000 over budget.
Yeah, and actually that's, that's a good number, because the increase is only 115,000 over where we started, because of some of the reductions we were able to realize, and we fully expect at this point for some of the expenditures that we're not going to be making that we had anticipated to be making for COVID.
And there's still some more reductions of that COVID money that we're looking at making.
All right.
Going forward, yes.
And when do we know about that?
As far as the
federal money
I
coming in?
put the Dave question there, could be August, September.
Okay.
Yeah. The allocation for the final part of the ESSER 2, and then the additional allocation for ESSER 3 as well we're waiting on. And all of that will be next year revenue. This is the last ESSER revenue that we can get for this year, according to CISA, according to DPI.
Oh, okay. Within our fiscal year that ends
Correct,
June.
yes, yeah. We're not able to get that revenue until next fiscal year.
And we still have a fund balance of 19.5, which is well within our,
15 to 25% is our policy. And yeah, and this is budgeted expenditure, budgeted fund balance percentage based on the actual fund balance if this budget were to occur, to the dollar.
got it. All right, so is there a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented? Did anybody, oh, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve 6A, recommend school board approve budget amendment as presented.
And is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Patty Jo. Any further questions or discussion on the budget amendment?
Does the motion itself need to state the dollar amount, Dave?
Yeah, the general fund dollar amount, the $19,737,686.
Nice work, Katie. Yeah, do I need to say that, Tasia?
I've got it.
Okay then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, part
Thanks,
4
Dave.
and 5, the support staff and co-curricular staff. We had first, I'm sorry, thank you, Dave, for coming in and staying so late
Thank you.
and explaining this budget amendment to us.
You will see it in the paper soon.
Oh, yes.
And then a reminder that we're meeting an hour early at the June 7th meeting to talk budget with you, right?
Yes, we're going to talk just school finance,
Yeah,
all
or
the things you see.
reports.
Yes,
and things like that.
yeah, the process, all that. And then we'll have probably the preliminary budget for next year at the business session in June. And again, that's just a snapshot, and we'll talk about that
Yep.
at the first meeting.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Uh,
I'll make a motion to approve items B and C.
You certainly may. Is there a second to Bruce's motion to approve items 6B and 6C?
Second.
Katie has seconded. Did anybody have any questions or comments on the handbook or the policies?
They were-
Second reading for both.
Beautiful. They were beautiful.
I should have put more things on this.
I know, you totally should.
All in
raise for the
favor of the
superintendent.
motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mike, give me this one.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm making a motion to approve the consent agenda items 7A, B, C, D, inclusive of everything.
Is there a second to Katie's motion?
Second that.
Thank you, Sheree. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. General information, the June meetings, the 7th and the 21st, and thank you, Roxanne, for reminding everybody that on the 7th is when those who would like some additional budget information should be here at 5:30.
Those meetings are still at 6:30, correct?
Correct.
And they changed it in July.
Yes.
Till July.
And Marge, is there anything in Once Around the Table for you?
I had a parent email me about, and this is before my time here, but when the flex schedule started, evidently the teachers and the students were surveyed, and they said there was going to be a survey out for the parents to see how they liked it. And it was never done, so she would like to move forward on that if we can.
So Mark, could you?
We'll check on it.
Thank you. Was there anything else, Mark?
No.
Katie?
Nothing.
I would like to congratulate Leslie Thomas. She got 2 more grant awards for our district. Trey Krybeck on being named Academic All-State by Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association. Our Somerset Varsity girls basketball team, Roxanne, your daughter, is part of that, earning Team Academic All-State from the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association. Their team grade point average is 3.97.
Wow.
Spectacular. School perception staff survey results, are we gonna get those in June?
Yeah, the presentation on the 7th.
Perfect. Thank you.
It'll be another short meeting.
Pack a lunch.
It all depends on how many questions there are. And I'll release all that data a week before.
Oh, that'd be good.
No one has it right now. I mean, I've got it, but that's typically what we do. It's a week before.
Will you release it to us?
Yeah.
Bruce,
I have nothing.
thank you. Sheree? Okay. Roxanne?
Nothing.
Sheree, I want to apologize for interrupting when you were doing your comment. I could have waited my turn, and I should have. Prom this weekend was amazing. As I said, someone was actually happy to see my smiling face, which never happens to me. But as a fully vaccinated adult who stood next to my fully vaccinated family with my fully vaccinated son, I didn't find a problem with it. It was amazing. It was so nice. It turned out awesome. They did a lot of work. I volunteered to do cleanup on Sunday, and they didn't need my help. And hopefully they really didn't need it.
Big thanks to Sarah Colling and Becky Olson.
It was so good. They did such a good job. I mean, just the organization of it all. It was run beautifully. My son came home at 10:30 and he talked about, I mean, he sat the entire time, but he said it was really nice. I want to congratulate the people who won for prom court, especially the seniors, since they didn't hit that last year. I'm a little biased since my cousin won prom queen and my son's girlfriend won prom queen, but still, it was a really good thing for them to be able to have, and it really makes me excited for what they're going to do for graduation this year. So props to everyone who did work on that, and thank you to the people who donated it, because that was really, really nice for them to do.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Marge. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We adjourn at 9:20.